We are joined by Jim Schultz. Jim is the Republican Party of Minnesota's endorsed candidate to challenge Keith Ellison, and boy, does he need challenging. And Jim, we'll give you one more chance. Or you can leave. You can leave now. You're aware of our record.
Absolutely.
It doesn't bother you.
I've been listening to Garage Logic for 30 years here. It's an incredible honor to be here. I'm willing to take any risks that are necessary in order to be here.
You're a kid from Annandale.
I am. That's right.
Went to St. Thomas University.
That's right. Exactly.
Harvard Law School.
That's right.
Degree in what at St. Thomas?
I had a degree in philosophy.
Okay.
At St. Thomas, yeah.
And you spent a couple of years in the seminary.
I did.
That's and then went to Harvard.
That's right.
And became a successful attorney, which you are now in private practice. Mm-hmm. What was the turning point in your life that motivated you to take on this entrenched careerist, Keith Ellison?
Yeah, I mean, it did take a turning point. This wasn't in the plan. In a lot of ways, at this moment in my life, a race like this does not make sense. I've got 3 little girls. Was in a comfortable career spot, but I felt called to step forward because I do view Minnesota as being in a particularly precarious moment right now, and Keith Ellison is a big part of that. And 2020, I would say, was the turning point for me, where I felt like I had to become more involved. I didn't decide to run for AG for a little bit of time after that. But my view is we have in Minnesota an incredibly reckless set of leadership in Keith Ellison, the Minneapolis City Council, and many others, and that we have to change course immediately. And that's why I stepped forward.
And by reckless, I'm suspecting you mean specifically in their regards to crime.
That's right. Yes, exactly. I mean, we have so-called leaders who have backed things like defunding the police, who have backed things like these policies that have led to the incredible revolving door of criminals not being held accountable for their actions. And the result has been 100 murders in Minneapolis, 650 carjackings, and crime and violence bleeding out to the rest of the state. And people talk about the economic consequences of that, and that's true. There are economic consequences. Businesses close, people leave the state, but I think it's immoral. It is absolutely immoral that people in North Minneapolis are being gunned down almost every day, that men and women are afraid to drive for fear of being carjacked. And that's we have to turn it around immediately.
I've gotten a lot of emails from people, presumably you are unaware of my reception of those emails, who swear by you that you're the real deal, that you're a GLer, that you're a dad, you're an adult, even though you're young. How old are you?
I'm 36.
36. And I can't tell you enough how much people swear by you, which is why I'm so reluctant to have you, because everybody we like seems to spiral out of control, but that isn't necessarily always the case. What is, in your estimation, what do you see as the conventional role of an AG?
Well, zooming fully out, the AG should do justice. It's very simple. To say everybody gets the same justice. Republicans and Democrats, people who are rich, people who are poor, people who are black or white, they should get the same justice from the Attorney General's office. And right now we don't have that. We have a completely politicized Attorney General's office. And so, going more granular, what the AG's office should be doing is holding businesses accountable for serious misconduct. Right now, we unfortunately go well beyond that. The Attorney General's office harasses businesses and drives businesses into the ground and out of state. But they should hold the accountable businesses for serious wrongdoing. Beyond that, we should make sure that it oversees nonprofits, and that's a key component of its responsibilities. It provides guidance to state agencies, many of whom are acting well beyond their statutory authority right now, and that's one thing we need to correct. And then finally, it has a meaningful role in criminal matters. Unfortunately, that has atrophied dramatically in prior years as attorneys general, including Keith Ellison, have got behind in all these kind of far left, crazy policies of different types and focus on other things. But what we need is an attorney general's office that gets back to prosecuting crime aggressively.
There's an alleged tremendous food fraud scheme in Minneapolis. And I personally, from my reading, it seems that Ellison has only given it a glancing blow. That's right. That it hasn't been looked at. Would that be in your purview?
It would be, absolutely. The most of the blame for the $200 million roughly alleged to have been stolen through the Feeding Our Future scandal is going to the Department of Education, Minnesota Department of Education. But the Attorney General's office oversees all nonprofits in the state, and there were meaningful red flags for this organization for years that went uninvestigated, unpursued, and that's unacceptable. And that's another representative example of how the AG's office has taken its eye off the ball to focus on more politically salient things and not done the real essentials of the office.
I want to go back to your the idea that you became inspired to run, because on this show we've often suggested, I have a personal crusade that I'm on where I go around and I talk to guys that I know between the ages of 36 and 50 and say, won't you run for mayor? Won't you run for city council? And invariably, they're qualified, they're GLers, they're adults, they've been successful in whatever field they've chosen, and invariably they don't want that role. They don't want to take that on. What got you over the hump?
Yeah, fundamentally, my wife and I, we're people of faith. We prayed a lot about it, and we felt called to step forward. And it was something. It was painful. I mean, it was hard to walk away from a job I was comfortable in. Frankly, the hardest thing was thinking about traveling a lot and being away from my three girls. But we felt called to step forward because there's millions of people in Minnesota that we could help in the Attorney General's office in Minnesota, and we felt like we could do that. And it is an incredibly hard thing to run a statewide race, and incredibly demanding. But you're lifted up by the people who support you, by the people people who are behind you, and it becomes manageable by virtue of that.
I would say, judging by your shirt, it would result in a pay cut.
Yeah, it would. It does result in a pay cut. I've stepped away from my job to run this race, so my income has dramatically been dramatically reduced here. But what I tell people is, life is short, and we're not made for comfort in this life. My view is that we're made for sacrifice, that we're made to serve the purpose for which we've been called, and to serve God's people. And at the end of the day, you could retiring on a nice boat is one way to do it, but it's not. That's not for me, and I don't think that's really the path that we're really called to in this
Jim,
life.
you should also take comfort, because the guy that's sitting across the table from you, he is Mr. Fashion, as you can see, and the reason he's wearing that shirt is because he got toothpaste on the one he was wearing before.
I got breakfast over here. I got toothpaste. I got lunch down here, and I thought I had a sweater in my car to cover this up, and I didn't. So I'm putting on an EcoFun T-shirt.
Very fashionable.
Over my T-shirt.
My team will tell you it's pretty common that I do have to change shirts myself because I do tend to spill on my shirts and things like that a lot too.
Happens.
So.
You really did get a baptism by fire today, seeing the inner workings, how the sausage is made prior to the show, and
that's right.
It's better than the show.
That's right.
What happens prior to.
It's great. It's great.
Do you have hobbies?
These days, most of my free time, such as it is with the family. We try to just spend every moment of free time with the girls. I'm a runner. I run a lot. Run the Twin Cities Marathon a couple times, I'm less. I get a lot less running in than I used to, but I do that as well.
Have you ever been in a hardware store?
Yes. Yeah, many times.
Ooh, the garage grilling's coming out.
No, I just don't see Keith in a hardware store.
Oh, yeah.
Probably not.
I just think that there has become a political class in this country. We've talked about it endlessly on this show. A political class that does not lead the American life that the rest of us are leading. They're on their own rail of existence. And they really, it's even worse at the federal level, but you're seeing it at the state and regional and local levels, that they have no identity with the rest of us. They're pursuing their own hopes and their own visions and their own schemes and their own scams, and it has nothing to do with this. And based on our short conversation so far, I'm not sensing that in you. I sense that you would remain grounded to your neighborhood and your family and go to the hardware store, and you got to go to the barber shop, and you pump your own gas, and you know what the price of gas is. And we're hungering for that in this country. We're hungering for political aspirants who we can respect. Because I have no respect for Keith Ellison. I don't know what he stands for, except he doesn't stand for me.
Well, I appreciate that, Joe, and you're exactly right. I mean, we have a political class completely detached. You have politicians talking about how, in the face of $5 a gallon gas, that everybody needs to buy a $60,000 electric car.
Right, it makes no sense.
Completely detached. And I grew up in a middle class house. My dad, I grew up listening to Garage Logic in my dad's garage. He was kind of an amateur mechanic. organic, and my first job was the tasseling seed corn in Stearns and Sherburne County, and that stays with me. I'm not going to pretend I'm perfect or anything like that, but I think I do have a much more normal existence, much more connected existence to the average person than most of the career politicians that I think have done so much damage to our state and country. What grounds you in the sense that you wouldn't lose that in the event of your successful election? Well, I'd say two things. As I mentioned, my faith's very important to me. That's number one. Number two is my wife. She, every moment when my head is prone to get too big, she's right there to.
They tend to do that.
It's a game of flaws.
It's
a game of flaws.
My wife is a saint. She's one of 11 kids. She similarly grew up in just pretty modest circumstances, and she keeps us, me and our whole family, grounded. And I look to her. When I feel like maybe things aren't going the right direction. I look to her for help.
Tough to get that Harvard ego through the door frame sometimes, huh?
I like that's right. Well, unfortunately, that was one of the worst things of going there, just the arrogance, there. But I like to think I don't bring up that I went to Harvard or talk or act like I went to Harvard as much as the average
underachiever.
Folk,
Underachiever going to Harvard.
Yeah. What law have you been practicing?
I've basically been a general business attorney all my career, so
which would seem to me to be a good background for an attorney general.
Yeah, I mean, as kind of that regulatory side of the office that does pursue Minnesota businesses. Actually having somebody who knows something about the ways in which the regulations that are put upon Minnesota businesses operate and day to day, and I think that's a really distinct perspective that we just don't have a whole lot of in Minnesota government, and so absolutely, I do think that'll be a real asset. Ellison's latest grandstanding has been opening his arms and making sure the rest of the country, by which I mean his political class, knows that he's willing to welcome all women here from everywhere and defend them in the event they can't get an abortion in their own state. He would welcome them here, which is fine. I'm just wondering, is that his job? Well, it's not his job. It's actually extraordinary. So he doesn't understand the law on this. He says he won't extradite. He won't extradite. Persons who come here for an abortion. Well, under Minnesota statutes, Minnesota federal statutes, it's the responsibility of the governor to extradite folks or not. So if he, God forbid, if he wants that job, he should run for governor. And he doesn't have the authority to intervene in prosecutions along the lines of what is simply not within the authority of the Attorney General's office. And so what this is Keith Ellison being deeply concerned that he has a credible opponent in the race, and so he's trying to rally his base behind him. He's trying to speak to the radical, pro-abortion crowd who have no problems with abortions at any time for any reason, and that's what he's talking about right now. And unfortunately, we have an Attorney General who doesn't really know the law. How did you earn the GOP endorsement? How did you make yourself known? Well, I think I had an incredible team behind me, and I think we worked harder and we worked smarter. I was anywhere and everywhere, from Roseau to Albert Lee, driving across the state, and, just really, articulating, we need somebody to run who can win, somebody who is not a politician, just in it for the right reasons, and somebody who will take the fight to Democrats. Sometimes, Republicans, can be a little bit, on the defensive all the time in these races, and I think we got to take the fight to Keith Ellison. Who and what is the role of Doug Wardlow? Yeah, well, Doug, I beat Doug for the endorsement at the state convention. He committed to abiding by the results of the endorsement. Nonetheless, he broke his word and is now running in the primary. So that's disappointing. People expect that public officials keep their word, and he's not keeping his word right now. So he should drop out. Ultimately, we'll win that primary, and we'll win it decisively. We're very confident of that. The Republican endorsed candidate has won for 30 years, and so we'll beat Doug. And Doug has a history of losing. He's now lost 3 elections in a row, and we'll make it 4 elections in August. Should we have him on and make it certain?
Probably won't come on. Yeah.
Hang on. I want to follow up with that.
Yeah.
If you do, when you do beat him in the primary, do you expect an endorsement from him then? At that point,
I would certainly hope so.
So would I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The idea that you've never done this before, you've never held an office.
No, that's right. That's right.
And until 2020, you had not anticipated ever holding an office.
Yeah, well, public service, at some point, maybe like when I'm 50 or 60 or something like that, is kind of just a way to give back at the end of, toward in the latter half of my career. It was kind of something I thought, well, maybe I'll do. I mean, I've liked politics, things like that. But certainly at this moment, it was not contemplated. I just, as I mentioned, step forward because I just feel like if we don't turn it around immediately in our state, that we're in for dark times in the future. I
agree. I'm going to ask you, as fellow St. Thomas graduates, are you aware that they disinvited a speaker to campus?
I did see something about this. Refresh my memory.
Oh, boy. Help me, Rook, find out who it was they disinvited.
Oh, was this the Knowles, the Daily Wire guy?
Yes.
Is that right? Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah, I mean, that was...
I'm just wondering what you think of that because I'm terribly disappointed in the school.
It was a head scratcher. I mean, college is for, there should be a certain freedom of thought at colleges.
Absolutely.
And right now, in so many colleges now, we don't have that. You get the far left, but you don't
it's
really
the failed academy. It's just dreadful, and I hated to see St. Thomas go down that road, and they did, in my estimation.
Yeah, it was very disappointing. Yeah.
How old are your 3 girls?
They are 6, 3, and 1.
Holy man!
So it's quiet in your house. It's pretty quiet in your house.
Yeah. Good luck to you, bro.
What do you drive, a school bus?
We did upgrade to the minivan here a couple of years ago, and as I mentioned, my wife is one of 11 kids, so she's no stranger to big families.
Wow. Holy cow!
And we actually on her side of the family, there's 33 nieces and nephews actually. So we know big families, and we're just incredibly blessed. My girls are just incredible, and they're my pride and joy.
How many siblings did you have?
I had 3 siblings, 3 older siblings, 2 brothers and a sister.
So you're the youngest of 4 kids.
Yep, that's right.
Are your parents still with us?
My dad passed away 7 years ago of Parkinson's, and my mom is still with us.
Out Annandale way?
Yep, that's right. Exactly. Yep.
And you live in the western suburbs?
Yep, that's right. Yep, Minnetonka.
And what can GLers do for you?
Well, we have to win this race. This race is and I tell my team, failure is not an option this cycle. Failure is just absolutely not an option. And so whatever folks can do to volunteer or to contribute is incredibly valuable. So our website is jim4mnag.com, jim4mnag.com. They can donate there. They can sign up to volunteer there. They can share our things we put out on social media and things like that. It's kind of an all hands on deck, situation, I think, where we absolutely have to win this race and turn around the state.
Do you have position papers published that people can read?
We have kind of overviews of my positions, and we put it out in kind of a variety of mediums.
All right.
But it starts with the crime, the crime stuff, which we've developed very.
So I wanted to ask you about that because obviously in this state, a lot of people just vote blindly based upon one political affiliation or the other. And I'm wondering, in your opinion, do you think that the average Minnesota voter realizes that the policies of Keith Ellison and the likes of him are directly affecting the rise in crime in the state of Minnesota?
I think they do. I mean, he's become incredibly unpopular. There was actually a poll just came out last week, and of course we're in a blue state here, and I'm new to politics, and despite that, a poll came out from the Minnesota Post that had me leading by 1 point. That was last week, and that tells me that this race is not only one we can win by a half a percentage point, but that I think we can win this race by 5 points, and I want to win this race by 5 points.
Will he? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I want to completely repudiate Keith Ellison and the far left politics he represents.
Will he debate you?
So we challenged him this summer to 4 debates. I think Minnesotans deserve that. Minnesotans are entitled to a robust discussion of the issues. He hasn't responded yet. I'm hopeful he will. Well, I'm certain to have at least 1 debate, and that would be in October, most likely. And I look forward to it. Minnesotans deserve that, and we'll hold him accountable for his record. He's presided over the most significant increase in crime in Minnesota history, and we'll hold him accountable for that.
You need more than 1 debate. We need to see you and Keith numerous times. I think that would be very helpful to the state.
Or just show up with a cardboard cutout of him, and then you can just debate the cardboard cutout.
Totally. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The
exactly.
Dean's Scholar Prize in Constitutional Law from Harvard. The Constitution, a living and breathing document, or it is what it is?
what we, the Constitution was what we, what we agreed to at the founding of our country. There's a way to change the Constitution. It's the amendment process. It is not through unelected judges who decide, who make up things as they go along. The Constitution, we need to consider what it was intended at the time of ratification, and that's what we should be looking at, and not the kind of the latest fads in judicial philosophy.
Copy that.
The views that you have of the state. Do they parallel the views you have of the country?
Yes. I mean, I think so. I mean, I think Minnesota's at a precarious moment. I think the country is at a precarious moment. I mean, just look, this goes back a long time, but, we have, $30 trillion of debt, frankly contributed to by Democrats and Republicans, sadly. We have, lately foreign policy disaster after foreign policy disaster. The Afghanistan withdrawal, I think incredibly reckless. We have right now 10% year-over-year inflation. That is going to be, we're going to be dealing with the effects of that for a decade or more, and and all these other calamities that we've encountered. And I think we've been on a hard trajectory now for a long time, but I think things have accelerated in the past couple of years thanks to Joe Biden's leadership.
What about the movement around the country of the terribly woke DAs? Chase and Boudin just got recalled.
Yep.
Gascon in L.A. should be next.
Yep.
Milwaukee.
What do you think of that? What has happened there? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, we have our inner cities, our cities, our great cities in the country are being absolutely crippled by reckless policies. It is a man-made disaster, and you look across the country, and you're right to focus on it. And what are the effects of that? The effects are lots of dead people on the streets of our inner cities, folks who are afraid to walk to school, folks who are afraid to take their kids to the grocery store, and this is the human carnage of that is massive. It is absolutely massive, and it's an absolute disgrace. And the fact is that it's preventable. It's preventable by smart public safety policies that put criminals in prison, keep them there for a serious amount of time when they commit serious crime, and ultimately support law enforcement, not make them our adversaries, not get behind these just completely nutty policies like defunding the police. And so what we need is responsible public servants who aren't in it to get some Twitter likes and Facebook likes, but are in it to serve the people. And the people who are affected most by these depolicing policies, these defund the police policies, are inner city minorities.
Right.
And that for the a lot of people pretend to be on the side of minorities who get behind these reckless policies, and they should have to answer for that.
Right. I take it you would have them in your heart.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think Ellison does.
It's hard to believe that he does.
Right.
It's hard to believe that he does because we have kids getting shot in North Minneapolis. We have incredible crime there and elsewhere, and I don't see any policies to address it.
Well, you don't have to say it, but I will. Even his own kid is a failed Minneapolis City Council person. And I just don't sense any wisdom at all coming from that office. And I think what the citizens of Minnesota are really hungry for is some wisdom in that office and a return to some sort of reality that we can all understand.
Yep.
Because many of us can't understand this attitude about being light on crime.
Yep.
It's not paying off.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
It doesn't work.
Absolutely.
I love the phrase "man-made disaster" because that's exactly what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's natural disasters that you can't really prevent. There's also man-made ones that you can prevent, and the policies that we've seen are exactly that.
Well, Jim, I can't thank you enough. Of what I'd like to do, if you can stand it, depending on how the polling results in your appearance
you start
here.
to slip. He's never going to hear from us again.
But let's talk again sometime.
I would love to, Joe. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you, and I wish you all the best. And I hope GLers do some homework on you, do some research on you. Go to your website, give it to us again.
It's Jim4FORMNAG.com.
Yep, and see what we have a wonderful choice here.
Maybe after in a debate.
Pardon?
Maybe after you can check it after a debate to say here's what happened.
I would love that.
Sounds great.
Jim Schultz, the GOP's endorsed candidate for Attorney General running against Keith Ellison. Thank you, sir, and best of luck.
Thank you, Joe.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Take a break there, why don't you?
Okay,
pal?
sounds good.
Yeah.